Hey everyone, we have Jarrod back in the series of underwriting co-living properties. We're going to hit on the key metrics in this video, your all-in costs that so many people misjudge when possibly buying a co-living property. Welcome back, Jarrod.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me.
All right, so we can both touch on this, and you have a lot more of these than I do. Let's really go into the all-in costs and what you're putting into this property. I know you have a calculator. If you wanted to bring that up, you can go ahead and bring that up now.
Oh, okay. Well, I have the my actual breakdown. The calculator I pretty much know by heart, so I don't
Okay.
really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we don't even need to bring that up, but that will be in the video in the description, so anybody can pop it up and underwrite their deals. When you're looking at a property and running the numbers, outside of just your debt on the property, what are you looking at? What are some of the things that people really just are missing when doing this?
Specifically debt, but not the property itself.
We're gonna go into debt and then all the costs that you have as far as all in costs every single month, and then we're gonna talk about what your costs are outside of the conversion of the pad
Okay.
split.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I have to touch on this. The
Yeah.
property. I have to find a property that's 2,000 square feet or better. That way, I can run the numbers at 8 bedrooms because I need to be
Okay.
able to get 8 bedrooms. So that's my target, and it's going to sound really rigid, but nothing more, nothing less. And 2.5 bath, right, or better, right? So I run the numbers at 75%, which means 6 bedrooms. So I don't care that I have a seventh and an eighth bedroom. When I'm running the numbers, that's a pretty conservative, and it turns out to be pretty accurate, actually, way to run the numbers. So for me, the price point that I'm hitting is around 450 on average, let's say 450K. So with the debt structure that I'm using at 450K, I need to pay the mortgage, obviously, and the utilities. So for me, that works out roughly that 4 bedrooms of the eight, if they're rented, boom, I cover the mortgage. The fifth bedroom covers the utilities. The sixth, seventh, and eighth bedroom are all profit. So when I'm running the numbers, I run at six, which is pretty conservative because on average I'm about seven, occupied. My occupancy is in the high 80s, early or low 90% range, so it works out really well. So I'm pretty conservative with the numbers.
All right, and now here's a couple other things that I think people are missing, and I don't know how you have this going on in Phoenix, but people are missing, lawn care, pest control,
Mm.
snow removal, stuff like that, that now is all your cost.
Right. Right. Good call. Well, that fifth bedroom, that's I kind of included that. So
Okay.
the most expensive cost for us in Arizona, me in Arizona, is the utilities, the AC, because you pay utilities, right?
Yeah.
And the summertime, obviously, it ramps up. Now, luckily, two of my properties have solar, so that helps out a little bit.
Okay.
So yes, that's a big one. I do have all that fixed into the calculator and into the spreadsheet breakdown. If you're going to share that out, that people
Yeah.
can plug in their numbers there. But yeah, that's accounted for with the fifth bedroom essentially.
Okay.
Um,
And those utilities, another thing that I missed, not completely missed, but I underestimated how much more utilities than a regular single family rental, would use. I mean, you have 8 people living in this house, right? Like the utility
yeah,
bill is a lot higher.
yeah. That's the reason I'm doing everything solo. I haven't taken on any investors. I'm 100% myself because I wanted to get through the summer to see what kind of a hit, and it was pretty substantial. It was $633 in 1 month during the summer, over 600. So on one of the properties without solar. So that gave me a really good understanding of what's going on. So or what would happen.
Yeah, and you hit something that I want to make sure everybody understands too. When you're running your numbers, you're putting a down payment down on these properties, right? You're not taking on an investor, so you don't have that other second position debt.
Right. It's all just regular. I've got one that was purchased as a primary and then later on converted to a rental. So my cash on cash on that one's really good. It's like over 30%. And
Okay.
then the next two were DSCR loans that I had to put down 25% on, 125, 130%. So it was pretty substantial. Um, but, hey, I got the property and it's cash flowing and I'm happy. So,
Right. So if somebody else, a newer person that was trying to, come in with little money out of pocket, they're going to have to get a lot better deal than you're getting to make their numbers work because they're taking on more debt.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to be that way because, I mean, yes, if I could have found a creative deal or a cheaper deal, great. But my strategy is kind of bass backwards because I was looking for the property, not the deal, if that makes sense. So I had to find a property that fit my strategy really well. and that leads into the parking that I know I keep saying, but
Yeah.
but that was key, and it turns out it was really key, more than I thought. So worked out pretty good.
Yeah, so let's touch on parking and then I'm going to go back to something else we just talked about. So,
Okay.
yeah, parking could be a huge issue, and that was something that some people do miss. But if you're going through any kind of training or deep research, you realize you have to make sure that you're not pissing off your neighbors. So,
Yeah.
you got to make sure you have enough parking and places for people to park.
Yeah. And that bodes to the neighborhood as well. So you don't want to go in an A class neighborhood like in mine. That would be Scottsdale. Like if I was to even A be able to afford in Scottsdale and B buy it and then have 8 people living in a house, I can tell you right now, it's not going to fly.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So, as much as you know, padsplit does their, or I should say padsplit, but even if you go to co-living, people run these all differently. There is restrictions on how many people you can have living in a home that are unrelated, and it's less than 8 almost everywhere, right?
yeah, it's 2 or 3 usually. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of playing with regulation depending on how you set up the strategies, and even with like a membership agreement, it could still be picked apart by legal, right?
It's possible, yeah, but
Yeah.
so far I think Pat Split's defended all the you know, legal actions.
Yeah, and sometimes it just takes time, that even though they're defending them and they can all work out at the end, you still have to get through that. Like I have other host friends that have properties in Dallas, Fort Worth where they're now are only allowed to have 4 out of 8 members filling those 8 rooms right now, just until they can get through and figure out what's going on with this. So that kills your numbers if you can only fill 8 for your 8 rooms, and now you have to have everybody on one lease. That's what
Yeah.
they had to do.
Wow.
Hopefully it's just a temporary thing, but there's only so much, whether it's you or having someone like PadSplit running your properties or helping with your legal, that they can do it's time consuming.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So when it comes to, we're gonna go back into all in costs. Now you bought this property, you put some money down. Now we got to renovate it, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about your 2,000 square foot target. That's your house that you're looking for, but I'm sure you got to look at the layout, right?
Yeah, the layout's key. I mean, you could find I've seen people take a 1750, 1800 square foot house and make it work, but I'm just trying to get around 2000 square feet. So far, all of them have been 2000 square feet or better, which was the reason why is that's what I'm looking for. And I want a little bit more space. Most of the rooms are at least 10 by 10. I do have one house with like a 9 by 12, I think, or something like that. But in general, just decent sized rooms. I don't want to have little cracker jack boxes, or I've seen where people go in and do this really weird layout. So that scares me from a safety standpoint, fire, whatever. I don't want to have, like, let's say something happens and the fire department shows up and they can't, go through the maze of the house to try to find stuff, or people trying to get out. I don't want to deal with that. So the layout is very clean in all my houses. And there's another reason for that too. I'll touch on in a second, but you want to talk about numbers, so I'll get into the numbers. On average, the reno cost is about 5,000 per room,
Okay.
but you can go ahead like me. I'm usually buying. They've all been 4 bedrooms so far, so I'm going to add 4 bedrooms. That's 20 grand right off the top of the bat. But then usually kitchen, some other things, some flooring and whatnot. So one house I got away with about 7K on top of that, so 27K total out of pocket because I did the floors and some other things in the house, added fans. It adds up, right?
Hmm.
And then the other house, I dropped another like 17 grand on top of that 20. So it was 37K. But the reason I did that was the kitchen was so old that I wanted it to be durable and also nice. I mean, we're talking this was old like 70s Formica countertops and stuff like that, and the old cruddy white appliances. So I made a decision. That's 17 grand. Yeah, it's 17 grand, but it's way nicer. The cabinets were refinished. We did quartz countertops, stainless steel appliances, all that. Did the floors, like the whole house. So, it got up there, but it's a much nicer place. I think people appreciate it. The idea is, and I've even had people transfer to my properties from other properties because I'm charging the same, but it's a nicer service, right? Well, I mean, nicer house, but then also I have, cleaning every 2 weeks, like you said earlier, landscaping, things like that. So really provide a nice service for people. So
Yeah, and I want to touch on that. Like, I'm going back and forth between your properties and like mine. I did not update as much as you did. My house is bigger though. It was a weird layout, but it's 3,300 square feet. It's a pretty good sized house, but I only have 7 bedrooms in there. Some of my bedrooms are huge. Um, But just because of how the house is laid out, I wasn't able to sneak another bedroom in there without making the house like really weird.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I do have some huge bedrooms, but now that's, driving up my utility costs because I'm heating a 30 heating or putting AC through a 3,300 square foot house.
yeah.
I had a $680 electric bill over the summer.
Wow, yeah.
That was just electric. Um, and then I want to touch on, and this is something that eventually you're going to sell these properties. So how do you look at breaking these up and making these into these pad splits, knowing that if you sell it, you might have to start tearing down walls and putting it
Yeah.
back to how it was.
Well, that's the reason I don't want to do all the goofy stuff too.
Yeah.
Is like literally added a wall that created two bedrooms, right?
Hmm.
There was a living room and dining room. And so we added a wall and put some doors in it. Boom. And then we had to blow out the exterior wall for an egress to put a window in it. But if I needed to turn it back into the house that it was, I just take that wall down.
Okay.
That kind of all the houses are like that. So yeah, if I ever had to, which I don't plan on doing, I actually see this taking off. I know we're somewhat early adopters with this relatively with the co-living model, but the way the economy is going, I don't see it going away. Matter of fact, I see it taking off. Just and actually you touched on something I wanted to mention. Part of the reason I wanted to update the counters and whatnot was the competition because of all the investors coming in,
Yeah.
and I wanted to stand out. And it's hard to stand out just telling people, hey, I provide a good service when you have old 50-year-old countertops and whatnot. They're going to look at the pictures and be like, nah. So, yes, I spent a little extra money, but that extra money, I think, is basically obtained me members over somebody else's house. So, over time, that'll pay itself back.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's where I think, I mean, I'm kind of lucky because I'm in Charlotte market. It's a new market with pad split, and I am currently doing pad split, but there's not a lot of competition yet because it's such a new market, but there's also growing pains building in a new market as well.
Yeah.
Um, so right now I'm not feeling the brunt of what you're talking about, but yes, I could see if we start getting more and more properties there doing co-living, I could see that being a problem, especially with the week by week rentals, because somebody that's not happy with maybe a little bit older, dated property will leave to go live somewhere else for the same price. And with pad split specifically, turnover is what will absolutely crush you,
Yeah.
right? Now,
Well, now with the new fee structure, yeah.
right, with the new fee structure, turnover will kill you. Now, if you do different types of co-living where it's rented out long term by the room or, even monthly, you might be able to get away a little bit more. But yeah, there's just so many different strategies you can go with co-living. But the better your property is, so the more money you put into it and make it nicer, a better place to live, the more people are going to want to stay. So,
Yeah, that was the idea. And
yeah.
so far, that's worked out to be, fairly true. We have your issues, but for the most part, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Let's touch on what do you supply in the house? Like outside of you have appliances, right? In every house, we have to have appliances. Do you supply silverware, plates, and all that as well?
Yeah, I do silverware, pots and pans, and all that. I have found though that I backed off on the silverware. I mean, I buy silverware, but I don't buy nicer. I was buying nicer silverware, and then over time, it just disappears. Shocker.
Yeah.
So I stepped down a notch and bought regular silverware because I was trying to be maybe a little too fancy, I guess. I don't know,
Yeah.
but live and learn, right? I mean, we're not talking big money. I think it was like $49 or whatever it was for a set of nice stuff. So, and it just over time ended up in people's rooms or thrown away, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so I ended up just buying cheaper silverware moving forward. But yeah, pots and pans and plates and the whole nine. So and
Eh,
cleaning supplies. So we do have kitchen cleaning supplies and then cleaning supplies for the bathrooms, but the and paper towels and whatnot. But the toilet paper thing, believe it or not, they purchased that, so it became kind of. I did try to do that in the beginning, but it ended up being I don't know what the hell was going on there, so I ended up not doing that anymore. And so far, that's worked out. What I did was I put caddies with a smaller soap for the dish, sorry, for the laundry detergent, and then I think two rolls, like a starter kit, if you will, and that sort of worked. And that was my wife's idea, and it worked out
Okay.
pretty good. So they take the caddy and then take it to the bathroom, and then they leave. So
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't supply anything for the toiletries or anything, but I have supplied cleaning supplies and I was having up until now was having my members cleaning the kitchen and the common areas and realizing that it was more of me keeping up on it because there's just too many different types of people that their level of what clean is so much different than what somebody else's level of clean is.
Yep.
So I just recently implemented using a service called Turno. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Mhm.
So think of it as like PadSplit or Airbnb, but for cleaners. A lot of the cleaners on there are mainly for Airbnb short-term stays, but you can find your cleaners. You put your properties into there and like describe what it is, give access codes and everything to your cleaners, and you can put the bid out for a room turn and somebody will pick it up. And you can have your cleaners that you eventually decide you like, and that's what I'm still working through, finding the cleaners that I really want to be my like t my more permanent cleaner. But I my last time the first time I started using this, I got somebody when I started this, I put out the bid for the cleaning request and I had 8 bids within like 10 minutes. And I went through and you could see if they're licensed, see if, if they have insurance and some don't. So you kind of go through each one and vet each individual one as much as you want. And that afternoon, because sometimes turns become quick in this model, like you only have 24, 48 hours or less.
Yeah.
I was able to get somebody in there that afternoon.
Wow.
So
Cool.
I'm still working on that to see if it's really a good thing. But I mean, for rooms, charge me $65. So that's not a bad turn. And now I'm pricing out the common areas for them to do these monthly. I'm going to start. But
Do you know what my turn cost is?
what is it?
$20.
No way.
Yeah. It's because I have when I scale up to 3 properties, I have one person that does everything, including she makes it up on the on the house cleaning,
So
right? So she
the bi-weekly?
the biweekly,
Yeah.
yeah. So she charges me. Yeah, I do. It's actually pretty cheap too. It's about 120 per clean, but we're only talking the kitchen and the bathrooms.
Yeah.
And she does a great job. And so, but she does all 3 houses throughout the month, twice a month. So it's steady for her. She doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to bump that up to 30 because I want her to be happy. And I
Yeah.
also put her in the PadSplit app as a reader, and I'm going to work with her on that. That way she can look at it directly rather than me calling her or texting her. So try to speed up efficiencies there.
Yeah, that's where the Turno app works for me too. It is starting to, but I had to I made 7 different properties for each room.
Mm.
So they're different sizes, so I'm charged differently per room. And I mean, my biggest room, that's what I was just charged, and I was $65, and it's a 20 by 10. So it's
Wow.
a pretty big room with a private bath. So
Are you doing that to see how each one does?
yeah, I want to see what the different rates are I'm getting on each property. And just so when I go and put a bid in, they know what room to go to. They have their codes. They don't have to filter through every single room codes to figure out which
Nice.
run it is. I look at it as it simplifies it for the cleaner, which is just going to make it easier and less things that they could possibly screw up
Yeah.
because they
That's
only
how
need to get in one
Amazon.
room.
Yeah,
So
that's an Amazon methodology, right? Like kind of a elimination over time. I think the way they did it was when they were working on their website, they just had a different color. I mean, that's how granular they got. And over that course of time with data, they found that whatever color, let's call it green, was the best color to use for 25% off. And so they just switched everything to that color. So same thing with that, what you're doing there, the service. I
yeah.
went whole ham with her because she was so good and so inexpensive that, man, I couldn't pass that up. And so, and as a result for her, she's grown because I'm telling everybody on the planet about her. And so she's
Yeah.
had to hire somebody. So her business is growing. So it's a win-win, I think.
No, that's good. And that's another like that's keeping those people happy that are making your property run right. Like
Yeah.
cleaning has been my biggest struggle. And before I found Turno, it was trying to get cleaners in there quickly. And that was my problem. I could not get people in there quickly to get those rooms turned and back on the market.
I'm going to write that down. Is it Turno?
Turno, yeah.
Okay.
And
Because
I'm still building that out now, but
that's
yeah.
good because I used Thumbtack
Okay.
for cleaning services, for handyman, all that, and did the same thing you did. But I found my cleaning lady in real time,
Yeah.
in person. I was like, cool, and it worked out. But all the handyman, I did the same thing you're doing, using somebody for small job, small job, small job. And then I found a guy, man, this guy's fantastic. He's $50 an hour, and he charges, and he's really good. I just replaced a washer, and it turned out we had a leak in the wall, and so he fixed that and everything and did a really good job with it. But I've used him in the past. So, I have a primary, then I have 2 backups that aren't even close to the primary, but I have them in case of emergencies. So same thing with my plumber and electrician and all that. My electrician, I'm I'm not a fan of, but so far he's the best. And the next electrical problem I have, I'll use him and see how it goes. Or I'll
Yeah.
use another person to see how it goes and I'll judge.
That was the next thing I wanted to get into is we have these properties that are single family homes we turn into an 8 bedroom or a 6 or whatever bedroom you put in it. Things get overused, so things do break a little bit more. So you have to have people that you can call. I mean, I have a good handyman that probably knows the house better than I do or anybody that's ever lived there at this point because unfortunately he's had to be in there too much.
Yeah. Well, you touching on the market, the reason I chose that is some of the East Coast stuff was older and I just knew it was going to cost more. So the
Yeah.
houses that I'm buying are 70s and 80s. So they're old, but they're not like 1902 houses, you know what I mean? So, and they don't have basements, so they're solid foundations, so I don't have to worry about some of that stuff. So, worked out for me.
Yeah, I think mine's a 70s house as well, but it's old bricker. So it's
Mm,
solid build. Um, but yeah, it's still there's a lot of things that are a little bit older that I wasn't expecting to break so soon. Like, I mean, I replaced one of the furnaces and ACs, but I've had to replace both of them within the same year, within 4 months apart.
yeah. I
Um, you
replaced
know,
one AC unit too.
but yeah, my property could have been it can be a duplex. So that's how I ran my numbers. Like if I have to turn it into a duplex, I could break even and take a lot more of the brunt of what's going on, off of my hands. But still, I think we touched pretty well on a lot of the things that people aren't really thinking about. The overuse, all the extra costs outside of just your mortgage on this
Yeah.
video. So let's cut this one off and we are gonna jump in next to vetting members.
Good one.